knowledge systems. We have selected the theme of Indian knowledge systems for this year's Sadgamaya 5127. The third day's sessions have been planned to be a little deep dive into specific concepts of Indian knowledge systems. And therefore, for the opening session today, we have a widely respected scholar of Indian mathematics and astronomy, Professor K. Ramasubramanian ji from IIT Mumbai. I request you, sir, to please come over to the dais. Professor Ramasubramanian has visited our campus earlier, but I think this is the first time that he is addressing our faculty as part of the Sadgamaya gathering. So welcome, sir, to the Coimbatore campus again, and thank you for sparing time today to be with us. I call upon Dr. S. Balamurugan, chairperson of the EEE department, to please welcome Professor Ramasubramanian. Thank you, sir. One of the oldest texts of Indian astronomy, Lagadhar's Veda and Jyotisha, says, like the gem on the head of a snake and like the crest of a peacock, astronomy and mathematics are at the head of all sciences. To simplify the science of astronomy, we have Professor Ramasubramanian ji with us today. I call upon Dr. UKV Sharma to please introduce our resource person to the audience.
Sabhaye namaha, Amriteshwarye namaha. Om Gananantva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavin Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashranvannotibhisi Dasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Bhirvajini Vati Thinama Vitriyavatu Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. I'm immensely happy to introduce our own Guru, Professor K. Ramasubramanian, who is a Institute Chair Professor at the Cell for Indian Science and Technology in Sanskrit, which is called as the CISTS in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. A world-class scholar of great repute, a historian of Indian sciences in mathematics and astronomy, Sanskrit scholar, Vedic teacher, Indian philosopher, and a guru to many. In the same assemblage of disciples, I am also fortunate to be one of them. His immensely broad erudition, his insights, and his popular teachings have been inspiring a new generation of thousands of students, other scholars and teachers to learn and undertake research on the riches of India's scientific heritage and enabling its preservation. His creative and exciting teachings at IIT Bombay and his unique, unparalleled multidisciplinary scholarship continues to make an impact with a powerful combination of science, Sanskrit, and spirituality. His life's mission has been to inspire society, to undertake research, and give India its rightful place in the world of history of science and ignite interest in Sanskrit as a language of science. Now, I also want to convey my deep, humble gratitude and namaskarams to our Guru Sri Ramasubramanian sir by submitting a poetic chaplet at his lotus feet. Ramasubramanya Varyan Siddhanta Jyotishe Patun Veda Vedanta Vidyavat Sajjanan pranuve muda. The scholar, namely Ramasubramanian, Professor K. Ramasubramanian, who is expert in, particularly in Siddhanta Jyotisha, that is science of astronomy, Veda Vedanta Vidyavat Sajjanan. There are many noble people, but this Sajjana, who is already mastered Veda and Vedanta Shastras, and such a scholar, I am humbly conveying my prostrations, venerations to. Then, I also would like to convey my feelings in another poetic chaplet. So these are all, when I was pursuing my PhD under him, what I have observed. Hladasamipya vrittehe suvishada sumanasvantaro chishnu vaktrat modaf pradyota bodhat anupama vivrute saravat komaloktehe harshashastrartha krityat amita patumater jayate yasya dakshyat subramhanya guruhu sada vijayate bharate ramapurvaha. So he is the one, a small meaning for the verse which I composed. So hlada samipya vrittehe, by the very association with him, some spontaneous joy that occurs, because the kind of face which is full of glory, and that comes by the erudition and the character, the kind of character naturally that he has. And modaf pradyota bodhat anupama vivrute saravat komaloktehe, because of vast understanding, and he knows how to put it in a proper time, in right place, and with beautiful sweet words. Because of that, the spontaneous joy that occurs, harsha shastrartha krityat. Generally, there is something called shastrartha, a sort of debate between the scholarly people, and some people, there would be some two groups, Purvapaksha and Siddhanta. This is how in our India tradition, the Shastras have been dealt with. And in that, various conferences, he was very, very endearingly invited, and wherein he has done a lot of Shastrarthas, and wherein one can see Amita Patumati, a sharp intellect of the Ramasubramanian sir. Yasya Dakshya, the Dakshya is, that is efficacy. Then, Sache Subramanya Guru, Professor K. Ramasubramania, Sada Vijayate, he always hails victorious he is, Bharate Ramapurvaha, whose name is Ramasubramanian. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to invite Professor K. Ramasubramanian.
सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. So I offer my venerations to Pujya Swamiji, who is present here, and the other people who have been seriously interested in our Indian knowledge systems, who are also assembled here. Thanks to my student UKV Sharma, and I only wish that I gain the efficacy in composing poems like him. So it's very Beautiful. See, the title that has been provided for giving this talk, as I see, is the essence of Indian calendrical systems. All of us know that calendar is something which is absolutely essential. What does calendar do? It enables us to keep track of time, right? We need to keep track of time. For a variety of purposes, we need to keep track of time. And for keeping track of time, we need a system, and that is what we call as calendar. Keeping track of time can happen at various levels. On a day-to-day basis, we can keep track of time. So the lecture commences at 9:30. It has to end at 10:30. This is also a short time which we need to keep track of. We need to keep track of larger periods of our time also. For instance, suppose I want to celebrate the birthday of Mata Amrita. So how do I know? So we need to keep track of time. For agricultural purposes, we need to keep track of time, and more importantly, for trade and business, we need to keep track of time. I lend money to you, 5,000 rupees. So what is the interest that you are going to pay me? So we need to keep track of time. So keeping track of time is something which is absolutely essential for a variety of purposes in day-to-day life. How do we do this? What forms the basis for us keep track of time? See, we can think of today, most of us have only digital systems. These digital systems have been designed so where a number appears. Earlier there used to be clock, there used to be bell, various things were there. Pendulum used to be oscillating, but nothing today. So we have digital clocks. But one can ask this question, what is the basis on which this digital clock was designed? After all, some unit has to be there where it has to tick. What is that basis? The basis happens to be the motion of two objects. One is moon, the other is sun. These are basically our timekeeping systems, ultimately. Another thing, one is moon, all of us know, is moving around the earth. And the sun, no. So sun moves around the earth? No. Yes? We move around the sun. How do we know that we move around the sun? You can feel free to participate. This is just a free discussion. Any idea? Day and night. No. Day and night can be very easily explained if the earth were to rotate. Earth is rotating, right? Season can also be explained if the sun moves around the earth. How do we know that the earth moves around the sun? Which is what normally we call as heliocentric system. All of us would have studied that the heliocentric system was introduced by Copernicus, right? But Copernicus had no clue, really, to experimentally verify that the earth moves around the sun. So as far as our observation goes, naked eye observation, it will not help us to know that earth moves around the sun. So as students of science, many of you may be students of arts, many of you may be languages, many of you may be engineering, many of you may be sciences. So if you were to ask this question, how do I know? In fact, this forms the fundamental basis. In fact, there are three different calendrical systems, majorly, broadly. Today, if you go around the globe, you will find at least 15 to 20 different calendrical systems that are employed. In fact, two interesting professors, Ryan Gold, he is from US, the other person called Dershowitz. So he is from Israel. Both of them are computer scientists. I had an occasion to meet them almost 20 years back. So they had came up with a book called Calendrical Calculations, wherein they had developed serious interest to know how different calendrical systems have been evolved over a period of time, and they have described programs for all the 20 different calendrical systems. In that context, they were asking some questions regarding the Indian calendrical system. So calendrical system is very crucial, but all the calendrical systems have to have their basis only on the motion of these objects. The three objects involved are sun, moon, and earth. Okay. If you were to ask the question even, how do we know that earth rotates? Any answer? How do you know that earth is spinning? Huh? No. Earth is spinning around its axis, no? That is what we know today. So the time it takes to spin is what we normally keep as the basis for the day. So somebody was saying that because of the day. No, day only means that the earth has rotated around its axis. In fact, that is not exactly equal to 24 hours. It is slightly less than that. Okay? It's slightly less by close to 4 minutes. Okay? Then why did we keep 24? These are all some very interesting questions that we should pose to ourselves and try to understand something which is around us. 3, just to keep this in mind, so I need not cover too many things, but there are 3 broadly different calendrical systems that are employed. All the 20 calendrical systems that I was mentioning fall into these 3 major categories. One is solar calendar, the other we call as lunar calendar, the third we call as lunisolar calendar. Okay? Solar, lunar, and lunisolar. What do we mean by this? So solar calendar, obviously, we understand that it has to do with the sun. Lunar calendar has to do with the moon. And lunisolar means you try to blend your calendar to integrate the motion of both of them. Okay? Then why have 3? You should have only one. Today we use only one, most of us. At least those who have entered the corridors of the college, engineering college, they use only one. Whereas the other people, the vegetable vendors, they will use all other lunisolar calendar. They will know when Amavasya is, they will know when this is. We may not know. The thing is, this lunar calendar is something which has to do with the motion of the moon. In fact, this is what would have been the initial calendrical system to keep track of time. This week, etc., came much later. We could have had a 8-day week, we could have had a 10-day week. After all, we wanted to have some shorter duration, right? Nothing more than that. Anything would have been fine. We could have had a 15-day week. This lunar calendar, after all, nobody can fail to notice when a new moon occurs, when a full moon occurs, which we call as Amavasya and Paurnami. So, day to day, the sun rises and sets. So, you have to keep track. If you want to have a little larger unit of time, then you can have Amavasya to Amavasya. You can have Purnima to Purnima, right? This would have been the natural unit when people would have thought of. So, the moon rises along with the sun. On which day? Moon rises along with the sun. Amavasya, right? So, when the sun sets, the moon will rise. This will be Purnima, right? Full moon day. Because after all, moon reflects the light of the sun, correct? So, moon is just a reflector. So, when the sun sets, the moon rises. So, that will be Purnima, full moon, okay? When the moon and the sun rise, there is nothing. So, so you cannot see. The other side of the moon is always illuminated, but you will not be able to see. All the time, half of the face of the moon is illuminated by the sun. But since it sort of moves in a smaller circle and the sun in a much larger circle around us, we keep the phases of the moon. So the phases of the moon provide another way to keep track of time, right? Calendar is to keep track of time, and the phases of the moon enables us to keep track of a little larger unit of time. So day to day is one thing. Then we think of a month. Now we think of a year after that. So in fact, I remember distinctly when I went to the first class in IIT Bombay almost 21 years ago. So I was asking this question. I started offering a course called Calendrical Calculations. And I asked the question, why do we have a 7-day week? Okay. Why do we have a 7-day week? One fellow, instead of answering, so I mean, 40, 50 students were there. The other fellow stood up and then asked me this question. So why do we have 12 months in a year? Instead of answering my question, that fellow asked this question. So I said, I'll answer that, but you try to answer this. So spontaneously, I answered that question. Anyway, those days, bright boys used to come to IIT. I have met very bright students. Today, the number seems to be dwindling. But anyway, I'm just saying, we should also answer this question, why have 12 months? After all, so if you think of seasons, seasons repeat, right? And how many days do they repeat? We know it is something like close to 365, right? Therefore, sort of season sort of repeat. We will not be able to clearly demarcate. The rainfall pattern keeps varying and so on, but roughly we know. So seasons keep repeating. And let us say that I know what is the duration of the year. Okay. So anybody 365.25? No. Less than that? More than that? Huh? Just feel free. What is the duration of the year? Huh? 25? Leap year. So that is why every 4 years 365.25, right? See, it depends on what year you want to define again. Okay? So we normally keep off something called a year, and this year, all of us at least should be knowing that 2000 was declared as a leap year. 2100, will it be declared as a leap year? No, it will not be declared as a leap year. So only when it is a multiple of 400. So you will do this, not 4. So it should be a multiple of every 100th year if it is not going to be considered as a leap year. So this means basically we want to reduce the duration of the year, correct? So every 4 year I will call, but when it is the 100th year, so I will not call it as a leap year unless it is divisible by 400. Okay? So 2100 will not be. Incidentally, 2000 happened. All these arrangements were made only in the recent times. So when I say recent times, something like 200 years, 250 years before. That is the. So calendar has been evolving. I will trace the antiquity of the calendar little later, but the calendar has been evolving over a period of thousands of years, right? So the accuracy with which we are able to do keeps enhancing. We are able to compute far more accurately, and people have been attempting with naked eye for a long time. Now with instruments we keep doing it. Now within this year, so you have 12 months. The reason is only close to 12 new moons you will see in a year. Okay? Close to is what I said. Okay? So this is something you need to understand. Why have 12 months in a year? The basis is this lunar cycle which has been used by people. Otherwise one could have had some other thing. Okay? So this forms a natural basis, therefore you have 12 months in a year. Then we think of other interesting things in calendrical system. So this I said you can broadly divide as solar, lunar and lunisolar, and there are other calendars which are purely based on lunar motion. So what they will do is they will exactly see 12 new moons or 12 full moons, and then they will declare a year is over. This is what forms the basis of what is called Islamic calendars or Hijri calendar. If you see the month of Ramzan that is being celebrated, so it will keep shifting backwards. Suppose Ramzan was to be over by February 1, next year if you see, it will be over by roughly January 20th, okay? January 19th or 20th. So every cycle of moon constitutes 1 month, okay? The moon going around and meeting the sun. When I say moon going around, that is only some, in fact that forms another question. 27 stars we say, right? Why 27? There are millions of stars. Again, this is something which we need to understand. Moon takes around 27.33 days to go around the earth once. So moon starts at one position, close to one star, goes around the earth, comes back to the same star. It hardly takes 27.33 days. And that gives you the basis for having 27 stars. So otherwise, there is nothing which prevents you from having 50 stars or 100 stars. So there again, there is a natural phenomenon. Okay? So the basis for 27 is this. Moon takes around 27.33 days. In fact, if you look at the Vedic literature, so in Taittiriya Brahmana Tritiya Ashtaka, we have Agnirnah Patu Kritikaha Nakshatram Devam Indriyam Idamasam Vichakshanam. It just goes. And it gives you a list of 28 stars. Okay? That is called Abhijit Nakshatra. So it is between 27 and 28. So initially, people would have started with naming with 28. Or it is also possible that moon takes much shorter period now than what it took little earlier. We don't know, shorter, longer. I'm saying this because all of us know the year is around 365.25, okay? Actually, it is longer when you take the sun coming back to the same star, that is called sidereal year. And what is shorter is basically tropical year, okay? So that is some slightly less than 365.25. Okay? So there is something called sidereal year, which means sun coming back to the same star. Okay? You see the sun close to a star. It rotates like moon as seen from the earth. Okay? And it comes back to the same star. Then 360 degrees are over. How long does the sun take? It is close to 365.25 plus something. Okay? Then what forms the basis for 365.25 minus quantity? That has to do with some other motion which is very interesting. Okay? So the sun coming back to the same thing, okay, this forms the basis for solar calendar. If you simply take moon, okay, and then say 12 full moons constitute a year, this is lunar calendar, and you want to have a blend of the two. So that is what is called lunisolar calendar. Now, all this was built to just give you why we use Indian calendar. Calendar is calendar, right? In India, we have something very unique to calendrical system. So So some of you may be knowing Adhika Masa. I don't know if any of you heard. You know? Adhika Masa. We have the concept of Adhika. Adhika means extra. So just to give you, you don't need to know the terminology, but now you come to know. Adhika means extra month, right? So extra month in a year, which means, so I told you that 12 lunar months constitute 1 year for the Islamic calendar. That will shift by 11 days backwards, which means after 2 years, 22 days would have acquired. After 3 years, some 33, 34 days would have got acquired. So what will you do? So if you have to map this calendar with that calendar, then you may have to call some month as additional month. This is what is called Adhika Masa. Okay? So this computation of Adhika Masa itself is a very challenging problem. It is not, I'll tell you, very interesting. The uniqueness of Indian calendrical system we need to know. In fact, it is this which has given rise to enormous amount of mathematical ingenuity in India. Okay? So a lot of mathematical improvisations took place. Only mathematical techniques were invented just to solve this calendrical issue. Because we are very concerned about our day-to-day affairs, when exactly this ends, when exactly that ends. I want to know. Today is Ekadashi or tomorrow is Ekadashi. Today is Ramanavami or tomorrow is Ramanavami. I need to know. How do you form the basis? Because we have a very interesting calendrical system. And this moon on an average takes only some 29.54 days to meet the sun. See, sun and the moon are in the same line, you call it as Samavasya, right? Again, the moon also moves, the sun also moves. So this fellow, by 27.33, he would have come to the same star. But he cannot meet the sun, sun would have gone here. So he has to come, right? That is why he takes little more time and then meets the sun. So this you call as lunar month. So the average period of the lunar month, anybody can do this, simple calculation. So it will be something on an average will be 29.54 days. This 29.54 into 12 if you do, you will get only 354. Okay? So it is short by 11 and a quarter a day. So this has to be accommodated, and therefore we introduced what is called lunisolar calendrical system. Not only we, certain other civilizations have also adopted this lunisolar. But one thing which is very unique to Indian thing is, which month will you declare as additional month? Is it like arbitrary? So we have this, no? Suppose one were to ask you, why add 1 day to February, leap year? I could add it to June, no? I say June also 31 days, July also 31 days. You can ask the other question also, why have only 28 days in February? This is all some arbitrarily done. Okay, somebody would have thought at some day. There is no basis. So what we are universally adopting is a baseless calendar. And we had no other option, it was trusted. They went around the globe, they ruled, and then they said you have to follow, right? This is what happened. We need first understand this. Whether we can drop it, we can choose it, whatever. We need to clearly understand that it is a baseless means it has no astronomical basis. On the other hand, the Indian calendrical system that we follow is completely scientific. When I say scientific, I mean it is coordinated with the motion of these celestial objects to every second. Okay? So it is to make this more and more precise, we have been developing mathematical techniques. See, suppose I want to say when Amavasya is happening, what do you need to know? You need to know the rate at which the moon moves, right? So some of you may remember, or at least those who have been teaching physics will remember, Kepler's laws, right? What does the first law say? Nobody knows? Oh, that is taught in school level. Anyway, so it says that the planets are moving in elliptical orbits. Okay? That is the first law. So elliptical orbit, see, when they say, in fact, that is only approximation. It is not actually ellipse. Okay? Now, when they are moving in elliptical orbits, so when they are far off, the angular motion will be less, right? When they are close to perigee, the angular speed will be larger. So the moon is not actually moving at uniform speed, angular speed as we see. So the sun is also not moving. Then even the computation of the time interval between two Amavasya is a challenging problem. You may know the average period of the moon, that is fixed. One complete circle is easy. But at any given time, what is the rate at which it is moving? It's a challenging problem, right? So this is the challenge that they had to face. So they had to create models by which you will be able to capture this non-uniform motion of these objects. That they are moving non-uniformly is an observable, but capturing the non-uniform motion in some mathematical framework is not a simple thing. You have to devise some models, you have to have some equation, you have to have something, right? So this is the problem. So time interval between two Amavasyas can be 29 days, can be 30 days, can be even 31 days. That depends on the rate at which the sun and the moon are moving. So, but they had to specify all this in Panchanga. Okay? So, Amavasya, I do some Pitritarpanam. When do I do? I want to know the day. Ramanavami, I want to celebrate. When do I do? Deepavali, I want to celebrate. It is not some fixed day. It is something which has to do with the positions of the sun and the moon. Okay? So this is what we have, what is called lunisolar calendrical system. Okay? Okay. Now, having told you about the broad categories of calendars and various things, how do we compute calendars? So what is calendar? What are the different types of calendars? We know. Okay? What is the basis for computing this calendar? Okay? So that is basically astronomy. Astronomy is basically study of the motion of sun, moon and planets. And what is the purpose that is being served by astronomy? So that also we need to know. So astronomy is not to just land in the moon, okay? Astronomy is not to go and sit in the Mars. So our purpose of astronomy is very simple, okay? Where are you on the globe? You need to know. Why should you know? Where are you? Because the duration of the day and night will be different, right? So suppose I am in Chennai, you will have hotter and hottest season. Suppose you are in Delhi, sometimes you will go to 0 degrees. Sometimes you go to Kashmir, you go to Moscow, it will go to -10, -15. So you need to know where you are. So this is latitude you should know. Okay? And of course, you also need to know time. Okay? You need to know the direction. So sometimes I go for this faculty selection interview to IITs, NITs, etc. This is some department will be there, which they call as architectural department and so on. So where they have to design houses and so on. I will ask the simple question: how do you know which exactly is the east direction? So many people will be flopped there. Okay? They will say, I will use some magnetic needle. What will magnetic needle give you? Magnetic North Pole. You understand? Not the geographical north. So geographical north is different from magnetic north. So even this distinction is not known to many people. And of course, you have to know various things. The reason is, it has become fashionable for people to study only those things, okay, which will fetch us some grade, which will fetch us some money. ये दिमाग थोड़ा खराब हो गया, right? So learning is for joy. These are all incidental. We need to understand this. There can be nothing which can give you a greater joy than understanding something. See, in fact, this has been beautifully declared in Bhagavad Gita. See, nahi jnanena sadasham pavitram iha vidyate. See, a wonderful statement. So this is something which people have been pursuing all fields. See, whether it is arts, whether it is music, whether it is. So now we need to develop. Recently we have established, just now, short while ago, we thought seriously and we should establish a center for even skills, developing real skills. The artisanal skills are all gone. You have very precise machining tools today, but you look at the sculpture that is done. Elephant looks like a pig. I'm not joking. No proportion, nothing. I went somewhere. People had to tell me that this is elephant. So that is how things are. Very bad. So we need to do something. So these precisional tools are useful, but they don't really create the art. So there has to be a passion for it. And fortunately, I had the occasion to meet that fellow who made this Ram Lalla. So there are very, very few people like that today. Okay. So whether it is arts, whether it is music, whether it is dance, whether it is Sanskrit, whether it is composing poetry, or even teaching, it has to be passionately done. Only then we will be able to move ahead. So all this due day calculation, tithi calculation, etc., they were very, very passionate in the ancient Indian tradition. They want to precisely know. And in fact, eclipse calculation, when exactly the moon will fall into the shadow, you need to know. You want to predict. All this is done only through the science of astronomy. So astronomy is a science for knowing dik, for knowing desha, and for knowing kala. Okay? So this is all the purpose of astronomy is. So dik is direction precisely, desha is where you live, your latitude, and kala, of course. Okay? These are three things. Time. So how do you do? That is the thing. The antiquity, then I will also tell about the types of astronomical texts, then unique features of Indian astronomy. These two are unique. See, day everybody knows, okay? But tithi is something which is very unique. Anybody in the audience who knows what exactly tithi is? So a lunar month is divided into 30 tithis, okay? Lunar month means Amavasya to Amavasya, okay? Or you take full moon to full moon. It is divided into 30. Why? I told you just now that on an average, it takes 29.54, slightly above, okay? And therefore, 29.54 solar days, okay? So that is why you say tithi is made up of, even if it is 29 days, even it falls short by 28 days, okay, you will divide into 30. Okay. Now, once I give you this, it's very simple for us to understand what should be the duration of a tithi. You are trying to capture the motion of the moon. Okay. So the time that the moon takes, see, after all, when the sun is moving, moon is also moving, right? Sun is moving, right? So you just from the earth, sun goes around the earth. This is a 1 year. So moon also goes around the earth. Now the sun and the moon are meeting. Okay? Then sun moves slowly, moon moves very fast. This fellow comes here, he would have gone there, he once again goes and meets, right? So what is the lead of the moon over the sun? Suppose sun has moved theta, moon has moved 360 plus theta, right? The lead of the sun over the moon is 360. Sun is here, moon is here, right? Sun has moved from here to here. The moon came back and it has to cover the same angle theta to meet the sun. So the lead that the moon takes is 360, right? So this 360 you divide by 30, you will get 12. So the moon leads the sun, okay? The moon leads the sun because it is moving with a much greater angular velocity. So the time taken by the moon to lead the sun exactly by 12 degrees is what you call as tithi. You understand? So there are 30 tithis, Prathama, Dvitiya and so on. You come back to Amavasya, okay? 30 tithi. Okay? So one is called Shukla Paksha, other is called Krishna Paksha. Okay? So brighter phase, the phase of the moon keeps on increasing, the phase of the moon keeps on decreasing. Okay? So this is what it is. So this tithi is very unique to India. And yuga, theriyuma, 4 yuga irukku, enna? Krita, Treta, Dwapara, Kali. Okay, these are the 4 yugas. And put together, they have come up with a very large period, and that is some 43,20,000 years. Okay. So 43,20,000 years is a large period which they have called it as a Mahayuga. So somebody was asking this question, what is the basis of all this? Is it meaningless like 28 days in February? No, it is not so. Okay. So these are some very, very interesting things which if one gets into that, so it is not baselessly formulated. Okay. These are some very interesting times. Okay. The need for refining parameters as laid down in Shastras. So this is another important thing that we find in Shastras. So they say prediction cannot be made for all times. So students of science, we were taught, okay, initially before I started studying this, I started studying this almost 35 years back. Before that, I was a student of science and engineering. I did not know Bhaskara, I did not know Aryabhatta, I didn't know anything, okay. Till I completed my MSc in physics and also my engineering, I had absolutely no clue. But then there came an opportunity for me to look into these texts. I was so fascinated by this. And then I came to know that remarkable things have been done by Indians, okay? So which we are completely unaware of. Okay? Now this point, a clear understanding that prediction cannot be made for all times is something which has been stated by these people clearly. And in physics, so those who are teaching physics, anybody? Okay. Feel free. I mean, I'm not going to ask any question. Okay, at least some 4 or 5 are there. Okay. In physics, so we were taught, see, at least I actually worked in an area which is called nonlinear dynamics and chaos. And this theory came into existence only some 50, 60 years ago. It just flourished and then now it is somewhat, so different topics are glamorous at different points of time. And now the IKS is somewhat thrown, some light. I don't know how long the light will be there. यहाँ तो होना चाहिए. बाहर से जो भी करेंगे वो नहीं. That is not going to work. Anyway, so the thing is, one has to appreciate the beauty, how people were doing this science. See, it is, so jo ho, Modi bhi ho, jo bhi ho, so they may keep shouting, we have to have creativity, we have to have all this. But jab tak, till we get deep into any topic, nothing is going to come. Let us be very sure. If only we keep doing tinkering, okay, so no innovation will be there. You can keep shouting from the rooftops. So all that I am saying, because, see, some spark has to be ignited. Why? So even this calendrical system, why do we assume? Why? This question has to be posed. If we keep posing this question, then I think in any field, I think we will be able to at least create a few bright minds. This is very, very important. For that, we need to pose questions. Okay? So we pose questions only, okay, why do I do stotra? For which you cannot give an answer. We don't ask this question, why have 12 months in a year? You don't ask this question, why they are moving in elliptical orbits. You don't ask this question, why 365 days? See, only when you light lamp, why do I light lamp? Okay, why should I put this? Why should I comb my hair? Why should I wear sari? Only these questions arise. See, certain things have cultural significance, certain things have much deeper significance for which we have no answer. It has a significance, but that cannot be simply understood. So suppose I take a tablet, okay? Why should I take this tablet? So what does it do in my body? वहाँ तो कोई नहीं पूछता है. Anyway, I'm just saying, these are all more deeper questions which we can have discussions. So this, but there is a clear understanding. This is a larger understanding I'm saying. The nature of science. So the reason for bringing this is, some of you physicists, you might not have read deeper topics. So there was a claim which was made at the beginning of 20th century. We had made some significant progress after Newton. We made some large, and after around that time, even before the advent of quantum mechanics, people felt that we have discovered all laws of nature. Okay? The laws of nature have been discovered. It is only the computational machine that we need so that we can predict what will happen in future. Okay? Whether tomorrow it will rain or not, you cannot predict. We will predict the future of the universe. कैसा होगा? இது எப்படி முடியும் அது? அவ்வளோதான் சொன்னேன் வேடிக்கை. தமிழ் எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியுமா? Okay. So I went to New Zealand. அங்கே I have a mathematics collaborator. அங்கே போனேன். நாங்கள் ஒரு நாள் பிளான் பண்ணியிருந்தோம், ஒரு வாரத்துக்குள்ளே ஒரு நாள் எங்கேயோ ட்ரிப் போகிறதா. அவள் சொன்னால் நாள் சாயந்தரம் வாங்கிட்டு, இல்லை நம்ம போக முடியாது, நாளைக்கு வந்து மழை கொட்ட போகிறது, அதனால நம்ம போக முடியாது. ஒன்றுமே இல்லை, இட் வாஸ் சன்னி டே. Okay, bright sunny day, we cancelled our trip. Why am I saying this? I am saying this because our ability to predict certain things are highly limited. I am not undermining science. The purpose of science is to just enhance the predictability. We want to study nature. We want to see if we can predict. But that should be done with a certain humility and with a certain understanding that there are limitations. If it is done with arrogance and with the attitude that I will conquer nature, then you will be severely beaten up. Okay? This is what will happen. People thought that suddenly they will create some cloud and they will make things shower. All were a miserable failure. You cannot do anything. So now, this clear understanding that prediction cannot be made for all times is a very, very profound statement that we find and which we have understood today. Why? Because we were modeling the whole universe with some linear phenomena, as linear phenomena. Any non-linear phenomena is beyond our capacity to predict for long periods. And in fact, it so happens that the entire universe is functioning in a non-linear way. Okay? So we don't have mathematical models which will be able to handle this phenomenon. So this larger understanding should be there. In fact, even our own body, biological system, see, a lot of people do research in biology, neuroscience, etc. It is all the more non-linear. Okay? All the more non-linear. Okay. Okay. Now, I want you people to tell me whether we should take up questions and answers, or I can just move ahead. How long do I have? Half an hour? No problem. Should I continue for 15 more minutes and then open up? Okay. In between also, if somebody wants to raise hand, please feel free. Okay. This is basically for transmission of some knowledge, sharing of knowledge. ये सुन के जाना है, फिर ना काल लवाइंडे पोर दिखले. Okay. So something else. Yes, please. Yes. Okay, I'll tell you. Earth is modeled as a sphere. அதனால தான் நம்ம கோளம்னு சொல்லுவோம் தமிழ்ல. Okay. Gola is a Sanskrit word, by the way. Bhugolam. Bhuna Prithvi, Golam like a sphere. Okay, Earth in the form of a sphere. It's actually a sphere, so because of some phenomenon, இது ஒரு நடுப்புற ஒரு bulge இருக்கும். The equatorial radius னு சொல்லுவோம். So it is spinning around an axis. So எதுவுமே ஸ்பின் ஆனா ஒரு நூல் எடுத்து இப்படி சுத்தினா கையில கட்டி சுத்தினா உட்டா ஓடிடும், right? They want to move out. This is what is called centrifugal force. அது வெளில தள்ள பார்க்கும். So Earth is a very heavy thing. அதில் வந்து it just tries to pull out. So அதனால the equatorial portion will be bulged. அது just information. It is spinning around an axis, இல்லையா? Okay. அப்போ இந்த axis ஒரு டைரக்ஷனில் இருக்கு. அது எங்கேயோ போய் ஸ்பேஸில் ஒரு மீட் பண்ணும். ஓகே. ஸோ அதை தான் வந்து நம்ம நார்த் போல்னு சொல்லுவோம். ஓகே, தட் இஸ் கால்ட் நார்த் செலஸ்டியல் போல். ஸோ எர்த் இஸ் ஸ்பின்னிங், இது சுற்றுறது இல்லை. இது இப்படி ஒரு வாட்டி சுற்றுறதுக்கு இட் டேக்ஸ் அரவுண்ட் 23 hours 56 minutes and a few seconds. ஓகே, கிட்டத்தட்ட ஒரு 4 நிமிஷம் கம்மி. ஓகே, ஸோ இது சுற்றுறது. ஆனால் நம்ம 24 மணி நேரம் எடுத்துருக்கோம், அது வேறு, தட் வி வில் கம் டு. இப்போ இந்த இது வந்து நார்த்து ஜியோக்ராஃபிக்கல் போல். எந்த ஆக்சிஸில் எந்த தண்டத்தில் எர்த்து சுற்றுறதோ, இஃப் இட் கோஸ், தட் இஸ் கால்ட் நார்த். அப்போ அதுலேருந்து 90 degrees வந்தால் ஈஸ்ட்டு. அதெல்லாம் புரிஞ்சு போச்சு. ஒன்று ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணால் எல்லாம் ஃபிக்ஸ் ஆகிடும். கரெக்ட்? The magnetic thing is something which has to do with the inner core of the earth. The ulle there is a lot of molten material that is moving around. தண்ணி இருக்கும், அது கீழே என்ன இருக்கும், எல்லாம் இருக்கும், ஆயில் இருக்கும், ஒரு இடத்துல ஒன்று இருக்கும். ஓகே, ஸோ பிகாஸ் ஆஃப் எப்படி ஒரு காந்தத்தில் இருக்கோ அதை போல் the whole earth can be conceived as some magnet. It has some magnetic thing. அது வந்து that has nothing to do with this north. So that will be deflected. அது how long will it be deflected and how much will it be deflected, இது நம்ம கையில் இல்லை. புரிஞ்சுதா? So because there is a lot of research which is going on to study what is the effect of the rotational period of the earth, rotational speed of the earth, because of the inner phenomena. Okay, so that keeps changing. Now idanaale because of this, so ஒரு magnetic field ஒன்று கிரியேட் ஆகும். Okay, so எப்படி ஒரு காந்தத்தில் ஒரு magnetic field வருதோ, that will get deflected based on this geographical the whole Earth's magnetic field. So they are inclined by 5 degrees, 6 degrees, 7 degrees, it will keep varying. And it will also keep oscillating. And all of a sudden, we know today that they can flip also. The magnetic north may become the magnetic south. Okay? This can all happen. So they are not one and the same. They are deflected by a few degrees, which will keep varying. Okay? This is clear? Okay. You had a question? Yeah, very good. Very good.
Because it seems not, because we still think Uttarayan is 14.
Correct. I will answer that. Okay, he raises a very important question. I was telling you that the axis of the earth points to some star, right? Because the earth rotates, we see objects rising and setting. The earth rotates all, you will not see sunrise, right? The sunrise or moon rise or star rise, whatever is the rise, it is because of the rotation of the earth. Now, suppose, just imagine, the axis of the earth is like this, okay? So, it is easy. Axis is so it is just moving in that direction. Let us assume that the axis north pole of the earth is pointing towards Amma. So south pole will be here. All of us will be seeing sun rising, sun setting. We call that as east, this as west, right? This is clear. Now assume that there is a star which is exactly in the north. Will the star rise? Right? Star will not rise. In fact, this is what is called Dhruva. Dhruva nakshatram paakradhu solluvanga. Theriyuma kalyanathu podu. Kaamchangala? Okay. There are two interesting things that we do in marriage. One is showing this Dhruva. The other is making the lady step on a stone. Yeah? Kalla ethuvam. Edukku? So these two, I'm just telling, since it is something, these two are basically symbolic to tell the lady that there will be a lot of ups and downs. You have to be very strong, like the granite, okay? அது மிளகா அரைச்சாலும் சரி, அதில் வெள்ளத்தை பொடிச்சாலும் சரி, அது கல் அப்படியே இருக்கும். Okay, anyway, now coming back to this question, so this is called north, and that is what we call Dhruvatara. Okay. So his question is, were people aware of what is called precision? I don't know how many of you have heard of the word precision. Precision where all engineering theriyum. PRECISION. Adu precision. Precisely saying something, precision. This is called precession, PRECESSION. Okay? Precessional motion. அது தெரியாட்டா ஒன்றும் வேண்டாம். நம்ம பம்பரம் விட்டாங்க கேட்குமா? விளையாடுறதுக்கல பம்பரம் பார்த்துருக்கல. ஸோ அது என்ன பண்ணும்? முதல்ல எப்படி சுற்றும்? It will directly move vertically up. Then it will start moving like this. Right? அப்புறம் படுத்து விழுந்துடும். Okay? So this is what will happen. This all will happen for human also. Initially, you will be vertical, then you will start oscillating, then you will fall down. Okay? This is some short span, longer span. Okay. Now, the thing is, so this is what is called precessional motion. Okay? Actually, what is happening is, the Earth's axis, okay, is actually precessing. இப்படி இருக்குல்ல, இது எப்படியே போகும் நிதானமாக அப்படி போயிட்டு it will come back. This will take something like 25,400 years, okay, roughly. So this precessional motion. So his question was, did Indians know about this? The answer is categorical yes. Okay, categorically they knew this. In fact, I will tell you, in some Puranas we find some very interesting descriptions. People started worrying. This is only to tell you the antiquity of this science. There are descriptions where they say that Dhruvatara is no more Dhruva. After all, you see the configuration. Mesha, Vrishaba, Mithuna, ella per sonna, Simmam, appdi sonna. There is some configuration of stars. So this one star whose rise and set will not be seen by you, which will seem to be stationary forever, is what you call as a Dhruvatara. Now, because of this precessional motion, the axis will not be pointing towards that star, and therefore that star also starts moving. Okay? These people were wondering. So this is simple fact. All are based on observation, very careful observation, and this observational basis made them understand that there is something called precessional motion. In fact, there is something called Sayana and Nirayana. Even in specifying the longitudes. Okay? So, Dakshinayanam, Uttarayanam, adu vere. Ayana means motion. Ayana means motion. Northward motion is what is called Uttarayana. Southward motion you call Dakshinayana. Idu or 6 மாசம், அது ஒரு 6 மாசம். Okay? இப்போ உத்தராயணமா தட்சிணாயனமா இப்போ? Uttarayana. Okay. Till July 22nd you will have Uttarayana, something close to that, and then it will be Dakshinayana. Now, this precessional motion, I was telling you a little earlier that what is the duration of the year, as I asked you. So this has to do with, I said there are, what year are you asking, sidereal year or a tropical year? So this precessional motion, okay, is what defines what is called a tropical year, and it is going to be slightly less than 365.25 days, because we want to keep track of the seasons. So, and we want to regulate everything, and therefore we have chosen that period. Okay, incidentally, I will tell you something more. இன்னைக்கு எல்லாரும் 365 சொல்வான், 365.25 சொல்வான், முன்ன கொஞ்சம் பின்ன கம்மி. There was a period of time, tens of millions of years ago, when the number of days in the year was even close to 400. Okay? The number of days in the year was close to 400. What does this mean? This means that there is a continuous reduction in the rotational period of the earth. Okay? Just now I told you that prediction cannot be made for all times. This is something which is based on thousands of years of observation. Okay? So they understood. So if you will take one astronomer, he will say that the year duration is 365.2568. Another astronomer will come and say it is not 32568, it is 2564. So this is something which they have continuously refined. This refinement cannot happen just like that. This can happen only after thousands of years of observation, at least hundreds of years of observation. Okay, whether it is the period of the lunar month, whether it is the rotational period of the moon, and now, I don't know how many of you are recalling, I think in 2011 or so, there was a huge tsunami kind of a thing in Japan. Okay, I'll see if I have the slide. I think I have one of the slides. Let me just take you through that. I told you, see, basically, I told you Dik, Kala, Desha and Dik. And here again, you start with direction and then you move on to latitude and then you can go to time. Without knowing this direction, in fact, you cannot even calculate other things. Okay? That's why dik jnana is essential, very, very important. Okay? Without dik, how can you say how far you are separated from the equator? Okay, everything requires all this. Okay, so this is something which you need to know. You need to know this, and you also need to know that. Idella odalam po. Okay, idella one I want to tell you how old is this. How many of you can read this? Just lift Devanagari, just to know. Oh, very good. At least 15%. Now you see, there is an interesting discussion between Narada and Sanat Kumara in what is called Chandogya Upanishad. Adi or porar. Narada goes to Sanat Kumara and then asks, "Sir, please teach me." Then Sanat Kumara asks him, "You first tell me what you know, then I will teach you what." This is Narada provides a big list for 24 Shastras. Rig Vedam, Bhagavad-dhyami, Yajur Vedam, Sama Vedam, Athara Vedam, Chaturtham Itihasa Pranam, Panchamam Vedam, Vedam, Pitriyam Rashim, Daivam, Nidhim, Vako, Vakyam Ekayanam, Deva Vidyam, Brahma Vidyam, Bhuta Vidyam, Kshatra Vidyam, Nakshatra Vidyam, Sarpa Devajana Vidyam, Etad Bhagavad-dhyami. Eppadi you will list upon that? See, we hardly know anything today. Okay, he says, I know 24 disciplines. So now if you just go to eye fellow, I know only cornea. Okay, I know only to open the eyes, I don't know how to close the eyes. So that is how things have become. Okay, so you go to some civil engineer, you go to some doctor, specialization, ultimately zero. I'm not undermining, I'm just taking. This is because, what I wanted to convey was, this larger perspective is very essential. In fact, if you look at this, I'm seeing in my own lifetime, okay, 45 years ago before, when I go to doctor, or today, not many occasions, but that is undesirable. But today, I can see the perspective that they have is something which is very different. The overall purpose for learning medicine and the perspective they are shifting. Okay, this is true of engineers, this is true of every profession. But anyway, so here, this Ayurveda Shastra says, I'll tell you, Ekam Shastram Adhiyanaha Navidyat Shastra Nishchayam Tasmad Bahushruta Shastram Bijaniyat Chikitsakaha, particularly medicine. Ekam Shastram Adhiyanaha. You are therefore sent to 20 doctors. You go to him, you go to him, you go to him, you go to him. And finally, when you come back, you are more or less gone. So you have to go to some 20 place. So this is what is happening. It's not that the larger perspective is not necessary. It is necessary, they have understood. But here, Ekam Shastram Adhiyanaha Navidyat Shastra Nishchayam. Okay? By simply studying one particular thing, you will not have a much larger perspective. Tasmat, therefore, Bahushrutaha Shastram Vijaniyat Chikitsakaha. I'll tell you, assuming that with years one gains experience and becomes wiser. I asked one person, so somebody wanted some help, okay? So I had a friend in US. I asked him, so he has this problem, who do we suggest to consult? He said, any doctor whose hair has become grey, you can go to him. Ippa grey kuda aardilla, black guy. That's a problem, anyway. So now the thing is, so with experience, one sort of gains and a much larger perspective. That's what Ekam Shastram Adhiyanaha Navidyat Shastra Nishchayam Tasmad Bahushrutaha Shastram Vijaniyat Chikitsakaha. Adu mera solran. Shastram Gurumukhodgiranam Adaya Upasyacha Asakrit Yah Karma Kurute Vaidyaha Anyetu Taskaraha. Taskarana therima? Thief. Okay? So the one who has clearly understood the essence of the Shastra from a teacher who has the right perspective to convey, and the one who has contemplated upon it for a long time, only that fellow can be considered as a doctor. The other fellows are all mere thieves. See, Shastram Gurumukhodgiranam Adaya. Ange problem ipo. Adayana modala grahikinam. Adu qualification venume modalla. Nalla solli kudukkradha irundha kuda adu receive பண்றதுக்கு வேணுமே பாத்திரம். அது ஓட்டப்பானையாக இருந்தால் என்ன பண்ணுறது? வர தண்ணியில் இப்படி தான் போகும். அது நிறையா ஹோல்ஸ் க்ரியேட் பண்ணிட்டான் இப்போது. ஏன்னா இப்போ என்னோடய கிளாஸில் நான் என்ன பண்ணுறேன்னா, this is a recent phenomenon. So the people have a temptation to look at mobile suddenly. I announced in the class that this is not done. It is not acceptable to me. சொன்னா ஒரு வாட்டி சொன்ன, ரெண்டு வாட்டி சொன்னா. Last semester I sent off one fellow. You get out of the class, you never come to. Dismissed one fellow. This year, what I did was, this was a much larger class. That was a smaller class. So therefore I said, any use of the mobile, if it is noted, -2. Okay, -2 marks. Okay, so this is what I do. Anyway, I'm saying there's a lot of holes now. No focus, no this. See, we have to just focus our mind. Then I think a lot of things will be. The environment cannot be spoiled like this. So we have to be ruthlessly. Okay. So this year almost 30% of the students gone. Okay, class of 80, 28 they could not clear. Anyway, I'm just telling you. Now you see, inge vandu this he says, hey, this went la. So here you see there is one interesting word, Nakshatra Vidya. You understand? So this is just to tell you the antiquity of the science. So it is in Upanishad and the various disciplines are listed. See, the classification of knowledge does not happen unless there is a means for classification. You understand? Ella mottama irundena. So there is a branch. You study this, you study this, you study this, you study this. So this kind of a broad classification is found even in the Upanishadic time. Okay. Now I wanted to show you that Japanese phenomenon. I thought I had this. See. So in 2011, see, a magnitude 9.1 earthquake happened. So this is a huge magnitude earthquake. You know, it is all logarithmic scale. Huge explosion. So what happened was the whole island got pushed. Okay. So the rise of the water was 131 feet. Imagine, crashed over Japan. This happened inside. So the explosion happened inside water. The whole water gets pushed to the land. Okay, this is what happened. The thrust was such that the biggest island of Japan itself moved. Okay, this was what happened. Okay. Now, because of that, so people after that, they made an estimate. See, earthquake sped up the earth rotation by 1.8 millionth of a second. You understand? All that I wanted to convey was the rate at which the earth spins is not constant. If this is not constant, nothing will be constant. Just understand this. The duration of the year will be gone, so everything will be gone. Okay? So this is something which is very interesting. Our people said, you see, this was what I wanted to. Yatha nishi paryatatam pradipadibihi swasamipagatav pradeshaha yavadapeksham drishyah evam sarvairapi swasamipabhavah kalaha yavadapeksham anumeyaha. This is a very powerful statement. Nishi paryatatam means as one keeps moving in the dark night, you can take a lamp with you, but the lamp will illuminate depending upon the luminosity. It can be 1 furlong maximum. It can be a few feet. Okay, as you keep moving. Okay? So he says, Yavadapeksham drishyaha. It is not going to shed light forever, for all distances. Similarly, with the kind of magnitudes of the numbers that you have estimated, you can make prediction only for a certain period. This is a very powerful statement. You understand that? So, sarvairapi swasameepa bhavah kalaha yavadapeksham anumeyaha. See, you can only infer that much. So, beyond that, nothing can be said. Okay? If at all you go and make your medical test, how long will it be valid? So, after 6 months, you have to go. After 3 months, you may have to go. It is a continuous phenomenon that is happening. So, nothing is actually fixed forever. So, this is a very beautiful lesson, and with a beautiful simile he has conveyed. And how did he convey this? This is based on thousands of years of observation. This is a quotation from the Aryabhatiya Bhashya by Nilakantha. Okay? So, tasmad bhagavataha Aryabhatasya, etc., etc. So, even if the numbers are stated in different siddhantas, see, so the moon's period will be stated as 27.33458, somebody will say. The other fellow will say 3354. It will not be stated in decimal, but some other number will be stated for the revolutions in a large period. So, this is a much larger understanding that people had. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, please. Yes.
There was a big controversy among scholars regarding the period of the Ramayana. The main bone of contention was whether it was in this Manvantara or some other Manvantara. So there was a school of scholars which was favoring the other opinion. That is, it happened during another Manvantara, during another cycle. So if that were true, then how would we see all these places and things, and how will we have the memory of all these events?
Okay. I'll answer. Now, whether it is dating Ramayana, whether it is dating Mahabharata, these are all based on certain astronomical descriptions that we find in the literature. Various astronomical phenomena keep repeating over a period of time. Okay? All that it might have stated is Rama was born in this nakshatra, they departed on this tithi, etc., etc. And some eclipse happened on this particular day. These are all very short phenomena. Nakshatra is just 27 days, it keeps repeating. All that has been attempted by people is to correlate them. So this also happened, this plus that, this plus, this plus, this plus. Finally, you try to make a judgment, right? So any court case, you will have various evidences, and we try to find some logic, and then we may have to arrive at some conclusion. This attempt has been made by several scholars regarding Mahabharata as well as Ramayana. There are two things which we need to understand. One is certain geographical descriptions that we find. Okay, some names will be there, which is there in the memory, which is in the literature. The other is certain astronomical description that we find. Geography may change, whereas the celestial events are much larger. In fact, the other gentleman was asking this question about precision. So we find this even in Varahamihira's book. So he talks about this precision. This is a much larger thing with which we will be able to make certain solid claim. So this question that you are asking, Manvantara that we are talking about, is a very, very large period. I was just mentioning one number, 43,20,000 years. So there are 14 Manvantaras, so which means 72 times, 2 orders of magnitude higher, okay, almost, is what is called one Manvantara. I don't think there will be a possibility of having this civilizational memory for such large periods of time. Now, there are 2 scales even in the Yuga. So one is 3 orders of magnitude multiplied by 360, you reduce by, okay, you divide this 43,20,000 itself by 360, okay, you will get some number. So So that is considered as the normal unit. And then 360, this is because this also has to do with the imagination that people had. Suppose my day, okay, is just sunrise and sunset. Okay. You think of a fellow sitting on the north pole of the earth. What do you think will be the duration of the day for him? 1 year. So जब सूरज horizon के में ऊपर होगा, day starts. It sets, day ends. Night starts, night. So for him, suppose somebody is in north pole of the earth. Just imagine. So for him, the day duration will be, of course, 182 days roughly. And the night duration will be almost similar. So that is why this 360 factor comes. Understand? My 1 year is 1 day for that fellow. Okay? So if you divide all these numbers, large numbers, by 360, then you will have the yuga itself. Okay? Instead of having on tens of thousands, okay? So you will have, or rather lakhs years, you will reduce it to thousands of years. Okay? There will be a scale of almost 10 to the power 3. Okay? It will get reduced. So the basis for that could be, if you just take that, then this will be just pushed by a few thousand years before. It can be 5,000, it can be 6,000, it can be, we don't know exactly. Okay? But to answer it in a much more larger perspective, all these descriptions that we have, okay, to be more scientific, I'm just saying, is based on the software that has been developed. It can be planetarium, it can be something else. They are fed with some software, right? Now, this software involves a lot of parameters getting into it. So, any change in the parameter is going to give you a different result. Okay? And what is the basis on which we fix these numbers? It is based on past 100 years, 200 years, 300 years maximum of observation. So 300 years back, we didn't have these sophisticated instruments. This Japanese thing which I just showed you, I don't think anybody would have had the ability to measure this to a millionth of a second. This is just past 10, 15 years, 100 years, maximum 40, 50 years. So the precision with which we are able to do certain measurements is increasing day by day. Okay, the tools that we have are getting sophisticated day by day. But what happened 3,000 years ago, whether there was such a huge tsunami, whether there was a big earthquake, nobody knows. Right? So which would have changed something? So the software that you had developed is also valid only for a certain period of time. And when we go back and try to compute something, when we go back thousands of years, we assume that the parameter that I have today has been there. Now, if you look at these softwares, they will also have, I don't know, you are a physicist, you are an engineer, what is it? Or you are just...
I am from the EC department, sir, Electronics and Communication.
Okay. Now, very good. Now, we have something called perturbation. Okay. So, you have a basic thing, then you add something, this is the perturbation, this is the perturbation, this is the perturbation, and you have something called perturbation theory in physics. So, this perturbation terms are being added, that is based on some other phenomena that you notice, some other tool. And therefore, the reliability of that itself is questionable to me. We can make some estimate, but we will not be able to be precise. Okay? So, suppose somebody says it is 3020 BCE, somebody says 3040. So, we have no clue to say this is right or that is right. It can go by thousands of years also. So, there are people who say this is the most important phenomenon. Something will not correlate with something else. So we have to peg everything on this. That is why somebody will say it is 11,000 years. Somebody will say it is 5,000 years. Somebody will say it is 4,000 years. So it depends on which you try to say. It is like saying you are prone to diabetic. So based on BMI, suppose you say. So somebody will have 22 BMI, that fellow will be diabetic. Somebody will have 32 BMI, he will not have diabetes. So it all sort of varies. Okay. So this is something. All that I am saying is, so depending on what you have fed, the output will also slightly vary. In fact, I have seen this almost 25 years back. There were people who have been really very, very passionate about dating Mahabharata. And two people from the same US, so one university, Memphis University, somebody else is from Wisconsin University. So they were coming up and then they were presenting different things. Because he used some planetarium software, he used some other software, and they didn't even match. Okay. Okay. Yes, please.
Daily they are saying the particular timing. If, for example, 9:30 to 10:30 is a good time. Then it is Yamaganda. How do they predict those timings?
Okay.
And it differs from country to country. So
Yeah.
how can it be done?
Okay. So I'll tell you, first of all, I am not competent to get into the domain of astrology. Number one. See, astronomy, Jyotisha is the general name. One is called Hora Shastra, other is called Samhita Shastra, other is called Ganita Shastra. Fortunately, my student, when he introduced me as someone who knows Siddhanta Jyotisha, not Phalita Jyotisha. Okay. Given that I don't have expertise, I will tell you something. This science of astrology, if at all we can describe it as science, is a statistical science. Any statistical science is bound to have failures. Okay? Let us be very clear about it. Okay? All our medicine is also based on statistics. Okay? Most of the things that we deal with in the world is all based on statistics. Okay? There is no doubt about it. Be very clear. And the statistics has its own basis. And in fact, when I joined IIT within 3 years, I joined in a humanities department. There is a unit called Cell for Indian Science and Technology, but my basic training was in science and engineering. Therefore, somebody requested me, sir, we are offering various courses for humanities students, so please offer a course on meta-analysis. Okay? What is meta-analysis? This is an emerging field. So somebody comes up with something, this is very good for you. Somebody says, no, no, this is not good for you. Somebody says, this is okay, medium. So which one will you believe? So this is analysis of analysis is what is called meta-analysis. Like what we call as metaphysics. I am saying this because this, you said that this is varying, right? So this is all varying because even this Tithi calculation will be varying because you have fed different data. Somebody will say Tithi ends at 6:28 in the morning. Somebody else will say it ends at 7:21 in the morning. It is all based on the data that you have fed. Okay, we need to understand this first very clearly. So there are problems which we face. Actually, across different time zones, they don't actually matter. The angular separation between sun and the moon, that is going to be fixed. Whether you are in US, whether you are in California, whether you are in New York, whether you are in Atlanta, whether you are in so Germany, whether you are in India, doesn't matter. The angular separation will be the same. It is only the rising and setting time of the sun. But the observation of a certain festival, okay, so this will all vary. So similarly, the good time, bad time, etc., when you are saying, so this has to do with a variety of things, okay, put together. They may say something. And that will be varying, okay, there is. So there are certain other things like Rahu Kala, they say, for which we don't have astronomical basis. So this all belongs to a domain what is called Hora Shastra. Okay, some of them belong to what is called Samhita. I know a little bit of Samhita, I know a little more Siddhanta, but I am zero in Palita. Okay. Yes. Can you please pass on the mic to him? Anyway, I am happy that I was invited. A lot of people had paid direct attention. Okay, some people were sleeping, some people were doing something else. That is okay, as long as they were not disturbing.
Namaskar.
Yes, sir.
Namaskaram, sir.
Yes.
Sir, we always associate the direction of south with Pidru. Is there any basis on astronomy for that?
No.
Okay.
We will not be able to say. This is, I can say something, okay, assuming that you associate, I mean, to be consistent among Shastras, okay, I'll tell you. So, assuming that this is Yama's direction, okay, and that is the direction of the hell, most people do only activities which will lead them to hell. Therefore, you can associate them with south. So, there is an interesting verse. So, any Malayali here? Okay. So, there is a beautiful verse by Narayana Bhattatiri, associated with Narayana Bhattatiri rather. He says, He roga mama yuyameva suhradaha yir nispruhoham kritaha tarkalankriti kavyakovidakatha yogeshu bhogeshu cha noche krishna padaravinda bhajanam vedanta chintamapi tyaktva shvashvaiti brahmadahamaho yamyeva yamyam padam. So he says yamyam padam yami means I will move towards that particular direction of south. So south is generally associated with, it has to do with this, I'll tell you. I was telling you that there is so you associate Devata with a particular direction, you associate with the other things with the other direction. This is very natural. It's like saying, like knowledge is like light, okay, ignorance is like darkness. What is the connection? It is a metaphorical usage. Similarly, divine things you try to associate to the north and the other thing. The other important thing is, this could also have the basis of astronomy in a much larger sense. Because, see, people have been mostly populated in the northern part earlier. Okay, then only New Zealand, etc., south parts were all explored much later. Okay, migration happened. Now, in the northern part, whenever this sunlight used to be much larger, okay, so that is considered as much better instead of having the other thing. Okay, so therefore, most of the things got developed and north. And secondly, you think of motion towards up. You see, understand? North means you always portray like this. So moving up the ladder, so this is considered more important than going down. Okay? So that is the thing that you associate. Okay? So yam yam is that direction, and Pitri is those who have been. Okay? So this is some association. I am not trying to justify anything. I am just trying to speculate something.
Yeah, they seem to say yam yam purim.
Huh?
Yam yam purim.
Yam yam?
Purim, purim, purim.
Purim. Padam is basically position. Puri is, there could be other variation, there is no problem. Verses have sometimes have one or two padas which are hearsays. Okay? In fact, I will tell you, see, after all, most of the knowledge got transmitted orally, and at some point they got jotted down. Even in the texts like Aryabhatiya, Brihat Samhita, which we are editing now, I find some mistakes. So well-known texts. Okay, Chando Bhanga happens, and therefore we may have to correct. Okay, then thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Namaste.
Thank you, sir, for giving us a very insightful exposition of the lunicalendrical calendar systems that are used in India. I am sure that all of you will agree with me that we have got a glimpse of both the depth as well as the breadth of Indian knowledge systems and the discipline and the focus that is required to gain such knowledge through Professor Ramasubramanian today. I request Dr. Satish Babu from the School of Physical Sciences to please come over the stage to hand over a memento to express our gratitude to Professor Ramasubramanian. The Ganapati is in-house Shilpakala Shastra School's production. Thank you, everyone. We will break now for tea for 15 minutes. We will reassemble here 11:30 sharp. Dr. Balashankar, Dean of the Amritapuri campus, is already here with us, so we will begin the next session.